Hey, I'm Karnik. Welcome to Star Wars Armada Explained. Today we're going to look at the objective Blockade run. This objective is something that drastically changes deployment for both players, and I want to make sure I was covering this card and explaining it so you guys can understand how it works. Not that there's a lot of confusion about this card, but again, I'll go through everything, make sure I'm explaining everything. So Blockade Run, it reads, setup, the 3-foot edges of the play area become the player edges. Each player's deployment zone is within 2 range ruler lengths of his edge. The second player places all obstacles. Obstacles must be placed in the play area beyond 2 range ruler lengths of both players' edges and beyond distance 1 of other obstacles. Now before I get into the other text, let's review what it's talking about. So typically in a game of Armada, you're playing on a 3-foot by 6-foot play mat. And typically you have your deployment zone, something set up like this. You've got, for the most part, placing your ships along the 6-foot length side within the specified setup area. Blockade Run changes this, and instead you're deploying from the 3-foot side instead. Each player picks a side, and 2 range ruler lengths is 2 feet across. So this is now your deployment area for all of your ships for one player. Over here it's the deployment area for the other player, and then the middle is where all the obstacles go. Okay, and the second player is who places all those obstacles. So you can get, a lot of players like to do something like this, where you get like a little V formation. Maybe you're trying to funnel your opponents. Maybe you've got it in a different formation. That whatever it is, a lot of players will typically try to abuse the fact that they have the ability to place all the obstacles down. Now let's read the special rule. The second player assigns 1 objective token to each of his ships. When a ship with an objective token is destroyed, the first player gains 1 victory token. End of game. The second player gains 1 victory token for each ship with an objective token within the first player's deployment zone. So think of it, the best way I can equate it, it's like football. We're going to say that the Empire is the second player here. Oh, let me go ahead and get these ships turning. Turning. Get these ships a-turning. So again, they kind of give you that sense of, So the second player, we'll say he's deploying over here with these ships, and then the first player, he's deployed over here with these ships. And that should do it. We're close enough to it. Alright, Vassal, come on. Catch up. There you go. Alright, so that kind of gives you an idea. And again, this is the entire deployment zone. Whichever player is deploying here, same thing over here. And there has been a case where people will deploy like way back here, and people will deploy way back here. And boy, that's a very, very boring game of Armada. But so the objective of the second player is to, within the 6 turns, is to get their ships from where they're starting to within essentially the quote-unquote end zone. In order to score the victory points from this game, this ship has to be completely within the first player's deployment zone. Excuse me. You can't be almost all the way in, because then that doesn't qualify for the within portion that it's looking for. It's not at, you got to be within, completely in. Nothing sticking out except for the shield dials. The shield dials don't count. Let's read. There is a rule clarification for this card. It does affect people like Radis and Profundity. It reads, Blockade Run. The second player assigns 1 objective token to each of their ships after the objective is chosen, before any ships can be set aside by card effects. So far this only specifically ties into just Rebels, Admiral Radis, Profundity for the MC-75. Because those cards is before you start deploying fleets, you set ships aside, and then you either drop them out of the ship in the case of Profundity, or you drop them out of hyperspace in the case of Radis, or combination of both. But this card specifically says no. If the second player, they still get marked up with their tokens, and then they can get set aside. That's the timing window. They clarified that because obviously some objectives, the timing window is such that cards like Radis or Profundity, they don't get marked up or can't be chosen. Anyway, that's Blockade Run. Very straightforward. Essentially, second player needs to get within the first player's deployment zone. He gets 20 points for each ship that manages to do so. For the first player, for each ship he manages to destroy, he gets 20 points per ship for whatever he can stop. And obviously, if none of the second player ships get to the first player's deployment zone, second player doesn't score anything. So that's Blockade Run. There's no other crazy interactions or anything else you should be aware of. So appreciate you guys watching the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.